recording is started. Good evening, everyone. We'll have a session on RC title questions today, and we would carry forward this discussion that we had in the previous session as well. We discussed a few things. In one of the sessions, we discussed 5 titles. We just picked up titles and we tried to form content for those. The last class was actually a passage analysis class more than a title class, where we had this one really nice intellectual article which was challenging to read. It was pretty challenging to read and it had a lot of depth and nuance to it. So those of you who did not attend the last class, please go back and watch that recording, because that article is on race and racism. So that is an important article and it makes a lot of sense. So that was what we covered in the last class. Today I've just added a few things. Just to wrap up the concepts for titles, right? What is it that we've got to keep in mind? Why are we even studying it? So few slides, very few slides, right? And then I've created a new exercise, a class exercise, where I picked up from Aeon Psychology today. I picked up from different contexts, different articles that I could find, and I've created some questions for you guys that we can discuss, right? And we can work around those. So at times I've picked up a paragraph, at times I've picked up 4 paragraphs, at times the full article. So different lengths of passages. We'll solve these 5 questions today, right? Wherein every question for each of these passages is effectively the same. Which one of the following is the title of the passage? We are only focusing on one particular question type. Remember, the intent of the session is very simple. We do one question type at a time. We break down RC into an analytical process. It should not just be studying reading comprehensions. Different types of questions. What is it that we consider for these different question types? Before we do that, what is your progress with daily reads and daily RCs? What is the number that you guys are at? Remember, we will never forget the process part. VARC prep is a process, and I will keep reminding you on a daily basis in every session. Keep reiterating, you've got to read every day, you've got to solve RCs every day. There is nothing outside of this process. There is no golden pill. 3 daily reads, 3 and 3 were just very good. 3 daily reads, Ketan. RCs kitne kiye, Ketan? 5 RCs, Uddhav, good job. 1 to 2 daily, 2 articles read, 4 RCs Ujjwal, good job. Mini sectional test, good job, Jatin. Practice RCs. This weekend I'll add mini section tests. In all probability, we won't have classes in the morning, Saturday and Sunday. I will finish all the 15 mini section tests. I have published the first 7. I'll add 8 more. I'll add 4 tomorrow, 4 day after tomorrow, and then we will next 8 days wrap them all up. Great. 3 practice RCs, 2 daily, 3 RCs, 2 daily reads, 3 RCs. Okay. All of you, the minimum number at this stage is 3 and 3 now. We've reached that stage where we have to be at 3 RCs and 3 articles a day. That's the bare minimum that we've got to be at. And we cannot ignore topic-wise RCs. We've got to topic-wise reading, the editor's pick section. That is very, very important. No, all tests can be taken only once. So tests can be taken only once. So the process part, we stick to it. Now coming to RC title questions, what is it that we have? If I look at all the titles that we've ever come across, can I classify them into 2 broad categories? Direct or explicit titles, titles which are directly newspaper front page, agreed? All of you would agree? Front page of the newspaper. It just directly tells us what happened. A train derailed, a bridge collapsed. This guy won this particular election, etc., etc. That's a direct fact-based title. The central subject of the passage is directly thrown on you. You directly see it. Those are not the ones that we generally get in exams. We don't get those direct explicit titles. What do we get? We get the indirect ones, the implicit ones, the ones which use language devices, which use metaphors, idioms, which have all kinds of subtle nuances attached to them. So those are the ones that we get. Exactly. So in Ashwin's dictionary, the carom balls, right? So now there is essentially all these titles, irrespective of whether they are implicit or direct, they share some common properties, right? What are these? A, they are effectively succinct summaries of the issue. What is a succinct summary? What does the word succinct stand for? Anyone? Meaning of the word succinct? And anyone can give me a couple of good synonyms for succinct? Concise, exact. Great job, Aryan. Concise, exact, to the point. When something is very, very to the point, something is very crisp, great. The gist of something, gist is the summary of something. So gist, if we have this vocabulary question, guys, let's imagine a vocabulary question. Which one of the following is the apt synonym? And you have two options for succinct, and the other question is which one of the following is the apt synonym for the word summaries, which is an easy word. Gist and crisp. These are the two options that you have. I picked up options that Ketan and Uddhav, you and Jatin, you guys have written. What would you pick for which particular word? Gist is more applicable for the gist of something. When I say the gist of something is the summary of something, right? Gist. Now, does a gist need be succinct in nature? Is it a necessity of a summary that it should be succinct in nature? Not necessarily. It is not a defining feature of a summary. A summary can be long as well. You have a 5,000 word article and you have a 500 word summary, right? Or you could have a succinct summary, which is just like 30 words or 20 words for a 5,000 word article. So then that becomes a succinct summary where you are saying it's crisp, to the point, it's shortened. Would another question to you guys, just a random question which is about the nuances of language rather than anything else, right? It has got nothing to do with this classroom because we picked up a vocabulary word and hence I'm just asking you a question, and I want to check your level of understanding of the language as well. When I say succinct summary, right? Do we have an objective criteria? I'm not going to explain the meaning of the question. I want your answers for it. Do we have an objective criteria to decide this, or we adopt subjective criteria to decide this? Succinct summaries. Whenever we decide whether a summary is succinct or not, do we have objective criteria or we have subjective criteria? You can write O and S as answers as well. Uddhav says objective. Sameer also says objective. Jatin says objective. Varcheswani objective, objective, objective. Everyone is seeing each other and saying objective. Any other answer? There are only two answers. Who wants to change his or her answer? Anyone wants to jump ship? Aryan, Ketan, your answers? Actually, if you think about it, the moment I say the word succinct summary, right, it is inherently a subjective experience that I am defining, right? Now, how do we decide whether something is objective or subjective in nature? I'll ask you a simple question. Uddhav, Sameer, Jatin, Annapurna, Varcheswani, my question to all of you is the same, right? When I use these two words in combination, succinct summaries, when I have to put a number to this, how many words form a succinct summary? Can we actually quote a number for this? Can we quote any empirical data for this? Can we quote a number? A, we cannot quote a number. B, now, which highlights the subjectivity of this criteria. My succinct and your succinct, right? For example, Prashant succinct, Varcheswani succinct, Aryan succinct, Annapurna's, Jatin's, Sameer's, Uddhav's. Is it necessary that it is going to be the same? Is it necessary that ours, when I say this is a succinct summary, is it necessary that you have to agree with it? You might find it very long and elaborative. You might, right? Or you might find it to be a medium-sized summary, right? Now, exactly, Aryan, for you it can be 30 words, for others it might be 60, for someone else it might be 200 words. Now, when we have different benchmarks for different people, when we have different criteria for different people, that experience is called subjective in nature. You cannot have an objective benchmark for it, right? Now, let's reverse this. When we take objective examinations, how many answer choices are possibly correct in the exam? How many answer choices. Only one answer choice can be correct, right? So that is an objective answer choice. And when we have a subjective answer, question paper, right, or a subjective test, then each one of us goes on to define our own way of looking at the problem, right? You can have different approaches for the problem. So that's subjectivity. But Jaspreet's question is, what's the point of calling it succinct? The point of calling it succinct is that here my question was not whether we can call it succinct or not, right? The question was, when I use the word succinct, and I can now use succinct in any case, succinct summary, succinct speech, succinct presentation, any such context, by parameters or benchmarks, is using the word succinct objective in nature or subjective in nature? Remember, succinct is a subjective criteria. Even though it means brief or being to the point or short, right? It can vary for everyone, each one of us, because we can't put a definite number to it. So if you think about it, whenever we give opinions such as this, whenever we label something as succinct, it would inherently be, we cannot put a number to it. We can't put, there is no accurate science in it. It is more feeling based, and hence it can vary individual to individual. So, but it's not denying the fact whether the summary is succinct or not. That's not the question here. The question is, this usage would vary people to people. The intent here is the usage will vary people to people. Different people might have different viewpoints of it. So that is what succinct means in this particular case. That is what it refers to. Got it? Great. Now, properties of titles are, they would effectively be summaries of passages. They would generally contain the subject, right? And that is the biggest clue for solving these questions. In technical papers and academic journals, titles are more direct in nature, right? General newspaper editorials, opinion articles, the titles start becoming indirect in nature. Why editorials and opinion articles have indirect titles? I think the bigger reason for having indirect titles in opinion articles is to create interest. The reason is that the reader should be interested. If I have an interesting title, the likelihood of you reading that article is higher. So he is generating interest through that title. So that is one of the reasons for writing these interesting titles, wacky titles, which make you think that it is. Clickbait is taking it to the next level. What are clickbait titles? What are clickbait titles? Anyone? What are clickbait titles? 15 days, 99% time.
So they are the ones that generate like direct interest even though they have no relation to that particular article.
21 दिन में पैसा double. So these might not necessarily, again, we have to be very careful in the way we express it, but just when you decide whether you agree with me or not. These might not necessarily reflect the content that they are claiming to contain, right? Or I would rather, if you have to give an accurate definition of this, can I say these involve a sense of exaggeration? Generally, they are clickbait in nature because they involve a sense of exaggeration. They might have something of value, right? But they would exaggerate it to that extent. So, what is this guy's name? Yaar? Famous YouTuber, Raj Shammi or Shammi, something like that, right? I don't get the pronunciation of his. What is it? Raj Shamani, right? This one. पिछले 2-3 दिन पहले वीडियो डाला था एक, उसपे लाइक मैं कमेंट्स देखे सिर्फ, and everyone was attacking the guy. He's like, what kind of a title have you written? He's like, this is what you need to do to double your income or something that you do in the stock markets to do this, right? But the gist of that video was that you learn stock markets, you learn investing, you do this, and the money gets doubled in like your lifetime or 10-20 years and etc. Right? It was like very clickbaity in nature, right? And someone Varchaswini wrote उसके comments में Varchaswani has written, when you send comments to hosts and panelists, I am the only person who can see them. When you send them to everyone, then everyone can see them, right? So Varchaswani wrote, kind of beer biceps part 2. There was a YouTube comment and it stuck to my mind. Someone wrote in the same post, Sasta beer biceps. So that's what someone wrote under the post. The internet is one wacky place. So it can keep you entertained. You you might learn something or you might not. I did not watch the video. I had no interest in the video, but I did read the comments. I think we all have our guilty pleasures in life. And you are allowed to have a few. Now, what are the steps to identify the correct answer for RC title questions? The first step is always identify the subject of the passage. That is crucial, that is critical. Don't focus on the minor details. This question type is not about facts. This is about key ideas, right? So, a factual answer which highlights one portion of the passage is not necessarily the correct answer. Our general idea is far more important, right? You should hit the nail on the head, right? The general idea should be captured. The central theme of the passage should be captured. Your knowledge of idioms, metaphors, and language nuances does play a role in these questions. So obviously you improve that over a period of time. This is not necessarily a step to answer this question, but this is a vital point, right? So your vocabulary skills would have an impact on it. And be always careful of the scope trap. What is the scope of the argument? What is it saying? If it's about topic X, then the scope of the argument has to be limited to topic X. It cannot include X, Y, Z, all the things in the world, right? So we should not violate scope. So we will learn how to focus on the scope. We will use it in today's exercise as well. And we'll try to identify how we can use these small little tips and tricks and our understanding of the RC titles in particular questions as well. Let's get started with the exercise now. First passage for you, we start with a single paragraph and then you identify the answer for this. Which should be generally reflective of the main idea of the passage. It should reflect the most important thing being said. Yes, Varchaswani, waiting for your doubt.
Sir, sometimes I get confused between scope trap and drawing a careful inference from the passage.
You can share a few questions for the same. I'll discuss those with you. What is applicable where? Because otherwise, whatever I say is going to be theory.
Okay, understood, sir.
So theory is like VRC is a lot of theory, irrespective of whatever people say. The application at the end of the day is all the student's end. The teacher is essentially just telling theory in a glorified manner. In fact, a lot of VRC teaching is where, if you think about it, if one can avoid vanity and pride in life, right? A lot of teaching in VRC is effectively showing that how much you know, rather than understanding what the other person knows. All VRC teachers suffer from this problem. I'm including myself in it. I'm not an exception. Answer for this question? Ritvik has given his answers. Aryan has given his answer. Ritik has given his answer. Others? It's a short paragraph, not too long. You should be done by now. You don't need to spend so much time on it. Answers guys, जल्दी जल्दी. ठीक है, वर्चस्विनी का भी आ गया आंसर. एनीवन एल्स? शिवम का भी आ गया आंसर. दिव्यांश का भी आ गया. केतन का भी आ गया. समीर, सबका आ गया. गुड जॉब गाइस. ठीक है, आंसर सबके आ गए. ठीक है, द करेक्ट आंसर in this case is option number A. Option A is the correct answer. This is an article that I picked up from Aeon. Right, I just went and searched philosophy articles in it and I picked this up. I'll explain the article first and then we'll, this is an article which deserves a little bit of explanation, so we'll go through it. Philosophy is dead, Stephen Hawking once declared, because it has not kept up with modern developments in science, particularly physics. So according to him, the philosophy is dead, right? It is no longer. Whenever you say any particular subject is dead, this is pretty common. This is a pretty common approach, wherein you can allege any subject in the world. Mathematics is dead, economics is dead, statistics is dead, etc., etc. When you say this as an expression of language, what does it mean? This can be replaced with X is dead, where X is referring to actually a subject or field of study. What do I mean when I say something like this? We will add some pieces of information to the question itself. We will add things about the passage which are new, which you guys might not necessarily know. What do I mean? So this is an inference that we can draw. So if my question to you was, instead of this question, let's make a question itself here. What does the author mean, or what can be inferred from the line? What did Stephen Hawking imply when he said philosophy is dead? Aryan says it is no longer relevant. Aryan says it is no longer relevant. Anyone else? What do we mean when we say philosophy is dead? This is actually an inference-based question. No longer contributing in the field, new approaches have discovered. Uddhav did not get your answer. Because maybe we couldn't feel with our generation. So when I say a particular subject is dead, he has gone on to explain the meaning of dead in the line that follows as well, right? He has gone on, it has not kept up with modern developments with science, with physics. It is now, they are not the torch bearers of discovery in our quest for knowledge. So effectively saying it has gotten redundant with time and it has no longer kept up its sense of inquiry, right? It is not growing as a subject. It is not as a field of study. It's not going forward, right? Upon which subject is the responsibility of discovering new knowledge? Science. Science is the one which is discovering new knowledge. Philosophy is gone. It is not discovering any new knowledge. It is not carrying forward that sense of discovery, that quest for knowledge, and hence it is dead. The response from some... Now, there is inherently another inference that you can derive from this particular statement. Can you derive something very oblique in nature? This is how I need you guys to develop this kind of thinking. So when I say philosophy is dead, right? What is the tense of this particular statement? Now, any question which would be based on this particular line would always talk about Stephen Hawking. So what did Stephen Hawking imply? Which one of the following can be inferred from Stephen Hawking's statements? According to the views of Stephen Hawking, it can be inferred. Because this is Stephen Hawking's perspective, remember. So there is, what can I derive from the tense of this sentence? Philosophy is dead. Let's see how your brain cells are running tonight. Are they active or inactive? Let's see whether your brain cells are dead or not. Using the words of Stephen Hawking here. Let's see whether they are dead or alive. What can you think about the tense? Philosophy is dead. Which tense is this? Philosophy is dead. Stephen Hawking once declared, so at some point of time in the past, he said philosophy is dead. Whenever he said that, his implication was that in that present time, at that particular moment, philosophy is dead, right? Now, inherently, when you do this, inherently you imply a comparison that at some point of time in the past, which is before the present, there was a time when it was alive. Yes or no? There is an inherent implication in this. For it to be dead in the present, it had to be alive in the past once. It cannot be dead without being alive. So if it cannot be dead without being alive, can I say this? Then at certain points of time in the history of mankind or in the history of human evolution, philosophy did contribute. It did discover knowledge. We don't know when, we can't label when, but there was some contribution it made. We can't even decide the quantum of contribution. Remember, what is it that we can't decide? We cannot decide whether it contributed 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 100%. We can't decide the quantum. We can't decide whether it was majority, minority. But the one thing that we can decide is, the moment I say philosophy is dead, I am implying it was alive once. It can only be dead if it was alive. Otherwise, what is it that I would have to say? If it was not alive, if it was always dead, what is it that I would have had to say? I would have had to say something else. Stephen Hawking would have had to say something else. Philosophy never existed. Philosophy has never been. He would have had to say philosophy has never been. Or he would have said philosophy is fake. Philosophy was and is fake. Or I could have also said philosophy has always been dead and is dead, right? So I would have to imply that philosophy is a fake thing. It never existed in the first place. He's not implying that. He's saying philosophy is dead, and the way he continues this particular sentence, what Stephen Hawking says, the implication is very clear that it must have been alive at a certain point of time. So that is how you derive very subtle inferences from statements. So even though this is an RC title class class where we are studying RC titles, we've spotted a small little inference, a very oblique way of looking at statements and their meanings. So these are the kind of small little skills I want you guys to develop over a period of time. The response from some philosophers was to accuse Hawking of scientism. What is scientism? The charge of scientism is meant to convey disapproval of anyone who values scientific disciplines such as physics over non-scientific disciplines such as philosophy. In academic circles, there is a lot of debate which is superior, right? People in the hard sciences, right? Now the hard sciences are your physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, etc., etc. Physics being the one which is, I think, in terms of prestige, it probably comes at the top. So in terms of prestige of work, right? So even biologists are even not given that kind of prestige as physicists are. I think, and part of it in the last decade, the contribution of Big Bang theory to the elevation of physicists in the last 15 years has also been significant. If not anything else, everyone knows the Big Bang theory now by name, and physicists have been elevated in everyone's lives. There is no such show for biologists or chemists. At least I don't know, which is so popular. So I think Big Bang theory in that way, in the last 10 years, it has helped physicists in restoring their reputation. The charge of scientism is meant to Breaking Bad, Mridul, absolutely right. I missed that one. You're right. But Breaking Bad does not do the same thing for physicists as Big Bang theory does. Subjective opinion. You can contest me on this. Agreed? Breaking Bad is not quite in the same league of popularity as Big Bang theory. Probably for the reason that Big Bang theory is funny. Is a lot more funnier. So people find it easier to consume. And it's a lot more dumbed down as well. In terms of human experience. Breaking Bad is far more serious. I have a Breaking Bad story to share. I have started watching the first episode. Each one of my friends has said it's a terrific show. I started the first episode, got through I think the first 20-25 minutes. I found it extremely slow and boring, and I never could carry forward. So it has always been on my list of series to watch, but I have never watched it. Who all have watched Breaking Bad? I believe there would be some fans here for sure. People who love the show. I know one for sure now, Mridul, because it instantly struck him. I know, Alan. Everyone that I've spoken to, or my friends or people that I generally discuss TV series with, they've said that you need patience for the first few episodes and like first 2-3 episodes, and then you get hooked to it, and then you start enjoying it. So I could not get through that initial phase. That happens, right, with some series. So that you just can't. The same with Dexter. Absolutely, but Jasmine, that is also that is also absolutely right. But Jasmine's point is very right that a neurobiologist finally controlled Sheldon, the physicist. So in that ways, but women always control men, but Jasmine, at the end of the day. Any man who thinks he controls women is mistaken.
Sir, that was purely based on knowledge, not on gender.
I always thought that I was in control of my life, and then I got married. So then I don't say anything now. Post marriage, I can't even say whether I'm in control or not. I will have to ask someone whether I'm in control or not. The charge of scientism is meant to convey disapproval of scientific disciplines such as physics over non-scientific disciplines such as philosophy. What happens is, now coming back to the passage, this is what happens in academic fields, right? Scientists would defend science very vehemently. Agreed? Scientists would defend science very vehemently. They would defend it with full vehemence that this is what this is, right? And they would, the other way around, philosophers would say that scientists are overselling science. They would say this is scientism, they are trying to convert everything into science, or they are saying that science is the only way to render truth. Science is the only way to expose truth. So that's the debate that is always going to, that to and fro is always going to remain. The philosopher Tom Searle writes that scientism is a matter of putting too high a value on science in comparison with other branches of thinking or culture. So the philosopher obviously believes this, that you are putting too much value on science, you are giving it too much importance. But now the author says, what's wrong with putting a high value on science compared with other academic disciplines? What is so bad about scientism? If physics in fact is a better torch in the quest for knowledge than philosophy, as Hawking claimed, then perhaps it should be valued over philosophy and other non-scientific fields of inquiry. Now the most critical sentence the most critical word in this sentence is that it should be valued over. Perhaps it should be valued over, right? The moment he uses the word perhaps, what is the one thing that which is the one option that he rules out? There is one option that gets ruled out by using the word perhaps. Which is that option? So now, one thing, this passage is not negative with respect to scientism. In fact, at the end of the passage, he is supporting scientism, right? This is support for scientism. So why scientism fails or why never scientism, C and E are ruled out? He has not actually said it fails. He's actually implying that it works, right? He's saying we should perhaps look at scientism, right? Now, why question scientism? This option number D, if anyone picked up, this one slightly goes off track because it is talking about the fact that we are raising objections to scientism and why should we question it? What are the reasons behind questioning scientism? But this is not about scientism. This is about scientism versus philosophy and how it should be valued in comparison to philosophy, which leaves us with two options. So this is about supporting scientism, right? The paragraph at the end, right at the last, he says that we should place higher value, right? These question marks are rhetorical in nature, right? He's actually not asking you. Agreed? What are rhetorical question marks in language? What are rhetorical question marks in language? These are actually things where the author knows what he wants to say, but just for being diplomatic, for the sake of writing it in the way that it is, for impact as well, for not only for diplomacy, for impact, creating that impact as well, he'll write it in a way as if he's asking a question. But this is not a question. The answer is given in itself. So for example, he wanted to say that there is higher value in science. There is nothing bad about scientism. But instead of saying that directly, he's written that in a question format. So they become rhetorical questions. The author actually does not want you to answer these questions. He knows the answers. So now, hence the statement that perhaps it should be valued over philosophy. Now, the problem with option number B is it says why always scientism. So that means there is nothing else that can exist. Now, which is the word which kills the always in this? Perhaps. Perhaps the author has done very clever thing by using perhaps. He's given himself a little window to escape. He's not said something which is like, he's not said this is going to happen always. He's saying perhaps it should be valued over philosophy. So he's given himself that subtle window ना, side से निकलने के लिए थोड़ा सा breathing room दिया उसने अपने आप को. He's not taken too strong a stand. He has taken a stand but not too strong. Given himself that freedom, that flexibility. Hence, it cannot be why always scientism. Why always scientism does not leave out any other case, any other option. This is not about preference. Now, option number A, why not scientism? It just raises a question that why can't we trust in it? This does not deny any other field. It just raising, or it says that why can't we place scientism over others? Hence, it's the much better answer choice rather than option number B. Only two options support scientism, right? Option A and B. These are both supporting scientism. Two options in support of scientism, but option number B is too strong in nature. Hence, it is ruled out. Not the correct answer. The correct answer choice is option number A. Got it, everyone? Small little question, good passage, good understanding, something to gain from even a passage such as this. And I think more importantly, we've learned rhetorical questions. We've learned philosophy is dead. Another way of looking at sentences, how to take out implications. These are all things, skills that we've learned. Not necessarily title based skills, but skills in the language that we should know. Passage number 2, guys. Chalo, this one is easier to read. So read this quickly. If the zoom is sufficient, can I reduce the zoom? Then you will be able to see the question as well. I'll just set it to, I think this is now visible, right? I'll increase it even more. Still visible. So now solve this particular passage. Much easier read. I will not analyze this passage. Does not deserve analysis. This will solve only the question. None? Answer, guys. Easy passage to read. 2 options should trouble you, ideally. 3 options should be easy to rule out or cut. Two options should actually challenge you a little. A and D are confusing. I made them this way so that confusion is caused. That was the purpose behind making them. ये क्या लिखा है केतन? XC. This seems like the name of Elon Musk's child. Right? He did name his kid some weird thing, right? Some weird name that he kept for a child, if I remember correctly, right? And then they could not ultimately get it. The kid that Elon Musk had with the singer Grimes, I think. Something like that. XAE12 something stood for something, I don't know. अमीर लोगों के यार मतलब अमीर लोगों के चोचले ही अलग है, हम कॉमन लोगों को क्या समझ आएगा. So now it's unique when it in first para other primates seem to have experienced it, right? Now let's I'll quickly read the passage without reading all the details. Agreed? I don't think so there is any line which is difficult in this. Fair enough? Any line which is difficult in this? There is no line which is difficult in this. So I'll just quickly go through it, right? Whether or not you've heard the term pareidolia, you've certainly experienced it. It's illusion perceiving wasn't there, pattern of clouds. So you perceive a face even when it is not there. It's a common feature of human face detection, near universal human experience. Not all humans experience it, right? Now, inference that we can take out. So if there was a question to you, which one of the following statements is correct? And I say, with respect to pareidolia, which one of the following statements is correct? All humans experience pareidolia. Some humans experience pareidolia, right? I'm giving you these 4 options. All humans experience pareidolia. Some humans, I'm writing it in short form, understandable, na? Some humans experience pareidolia. Most humans experience pareidolia. Or most, all, some humans do not experience pareidolia. 4th option. How many of the following statements are correct? How many of these statements are correct? Question is this now. So this is a question that I have created live for you guys, right? So it's not something that I was thought previously. Just reading this line created this question for you guys. Just to check how much can you infer. 3. Now in this case, all humans is easily ruled out. Some humans do not. Some humans do. Most humans do. These are 3 correct answers in this case. 3 of these options are valid, right? Let's make our lives a little tougher. Let's imagine this is a question which comes in the examination, right? Now, it's easy to rule out one option. This is clearly invalid. All humans experience pareidolia. That is, it's near universal. It's not universal human experience. It's near universal. So the moment he says this, right, If I have to select one sure shot answer out of these, now you are only to select one. Which one of these options would you select? Which is closest to the meaning implied? Now I am changing the question. Out of the following correct statements, right? My question is saying this. Out of the following three correct statements, which one of the following is closest to the one implied by the author of the passage? Most one is the closest to it, right? The element of subjectivity, most is closest to it. Here, when the moment he says near universal, it has to be most. It is, can I say this? This is near universal is almost 100%. Almost 100% is greater than 50. If it is greater than 50, then it is most. Right? It is. Now it has become an absolute criteria. It has to be greater if it is greater than 50. So that is what the author wants to convey. Right? My question is not this, that which one of the following, if I am going by the dictionary definition of words here. No. My question is, what does the author want to convey? What is the implication? The implication is this. So one, we can deal with this information in a lot of subtle ways, right? So these are subtle ways of evaluating statements, things that you should be careful of while reading. Although there are many similarities between humans and non-human primates perceive and respond to faces, it is not clear whether such species perceive illusory faces. So what he has, I think Barchesvini said, I don't know who raised this question, that animals have this ability, right? Thing is, they can perceive faces, actual faces. Illusory faces, we don't know whether they do it or not. Then they went, they designed an experiment. These researchers did this, trial started. We kept telling them this, that. Children and monkey, actual faces, saw them, selected them over illusory faces, illustrated the task. Now, however, only children selected illusory faces at levels above chance, right? So at a certain level, children were the ones that always chose it. Monkeys did not, right? So the monkeys chose a face it presented, but did not seem to treat the illusory face as more face-like than objects or scrambled faces. So monkeys were not able to make that distinction, right? They did choose, but it wasn't clear. So in fact, if given the choice between an illusory and a scrambled face, they chose scrambled faces. So that means they were not able to detect illusory faces, right? Children were able to detect. So this suggests that children's reportedly perceiving pareidolia, monkeys do not. Now the whole question here is whether it is A or whether it is D. That is the whole question, nothing else, right? The human uniqueness in seeing faces everywhere. Are humans unique in seeing faces everywhere? Now what is the, can I rule out three other options first to make everyone's life easier? Three options which are blatantly incorrect in this case. Right? Are monkeys mocking us? They are making fun of us. Not even connected with the passage. Right? There is no, he has never said they are making fun of us. Has he compared humans and monkeys and said humans are more precious than monkeys? We are better than monkeys? Not said. This is about two qualities. Whether monkeys have this quality or not. Right? Then why human experience is better than those of monkeys? Has he at any given point of time said that having the ability of being able to spot illusory faces makes us better? That's a subjective judgment. He's not said monkeys are worse off for it. In fact, if you think about life in general, just life in general, I think monkeys have a better life than us because they don't face an existential crisis that we do. Man faces the existential crisis that what is the meaning of my life? Why am I living? We every day before going to bed we think, is our life really worth living or not? All such questions, silly questions, which make it really difficult to live if you think about it. Monkeys have no such difficulty. Khao piyo so jao. So probably, think of it, monkeys have a better life than us. Khao piyo, chino, kahin se bhi khao, ghumo firo. They don't have to work. They don't have to do a 9 to 5 job. पेड़ पे चढ़ना है, पेड़ पे चढ़ जाओ. जहां जाना है जाओ. ह्यूमंस को भी परेशान करो. A and D, but they attend parliament. अब हम किसी और ही डायरेक्शन में चले गए. Are you trying to say, Ketan, that in our parliament we have monkeys rather than politicians? A, the human uniqueness in seeing faces everywhere. B, are humans unique in seeing faces everywhere? There is a subtle distinction between these two options. The words are essentially the same. One has a question mark and the other doesn't. What is this difference here of these two things? What is the difference here of this question mark and not having this question mark? This is a judgment. Remember, he is passing a judgment. The human uniqueness in seeing faces everywhere. I have passed a judgment. I have passed an order. This is raising a question here. Are humans unique in seeing faces everywhere? Now the tone and tenor of the passage. This is where for the first time we use tone of the author of the passage. In what tone has he written this? Is he passing judgments in the passage? Or is he actually quoting a study, raising questions and giving probable answers? What is the tone of the passage in this case? Tone of the author of the passage. Is he judgmental in nature, or is he discussing a study and telling us what could its possible implications be? Can I say it is the latter? He's discussing a study, right? It is the tone is where he's trying to discuss something. He's raising a lot of questions. Everything that he has said, he's not said it in a matter of fact way. He's not said it with certainty. He has said that it is the results suggest that while children report perceiving face pareidolia, monkeys do not. He has not even said the result is. What has he said? The result suggests. The results suggest. So there is a hint of suggestion rather than an element of judgment. So it is suggestive in nature that this could probably be it. There is a suggestive tone and tenor adopted. Hence, option number D, implying that element of suggestion. Option number A, element of judgment, that this is what happens. Hence, option number A is ruled out on the basis of tone and sentiment. So here, we realize the importance of being able to identify the correct tone and tenor and the sentiment of the author of the passage as well. So even though the content was similar, the tone was variable in these two answer choices. Another way of solving these questions, or another way of analysis that gets added. Now, can I say this skill that we've used for solving this particular question is actually applicable in other RC questions as well? That in what way has the author written the passage? The answer choice is whether it is judgmental or not, whether the way of writing it was opinionated and judgmental or not, what kind of it. This would be included in other answer choices as well, where these subtleties would be there, and it is our job to spot these. So when we have the RC tone questions, right? So I've added them in your daily reads RCs. They are there in the vocabulary portion. So the reason for adding for every passage an RC tone question is not the fact that an RC tone question is there in the CAT exam, right? It's not been there for the last few years. The reason for adding RC tones is it helps you understand what is the tone of the author of the passage, how has he written the passage. So it is more about style than substance. It is of learning value, that how are things written, right? That's the intent behind creating them. Should not be viewed as questions or tests. They should be viewed as an exercise in understanding. This completes passage number 2. Okay. We've had a fairly intense discussion for the last 1 hour, guys. It has been intense today, even though we've picked up very little content, but it's been pretty intense and we've discussed a lot of things. We are left with 3 more passages. And in fact, I just remembered we are left with 2 passages from the previous session as well, right? So what I'll do is I'll add those 2 passages as question number 6 and 7 to this exercise itself, right? And in fact, I'll add the 3 that we did in the last exercise. We did 1. I'll add them in reverse order and I'll convert this into an 8 question exercise. The video for the first one is already uploaded. I'll send this across on WhatsApp, the exercise, and in tomorrow's session, you guys, instead of solving it here, would have solved these 5 questions before the class itself, and then I'll not give you time for solving the questions. We will continue this discussion forward. And I will give you 1 additional homework. For rest of the passages, the way we've identified inferences today, would you guys try to identify some inferences and tell me that these were the inferences that you identified? Would you like to do this as a thought exercise? It would be an interesting thought exercise, interesting challenge. What can you think of the passage? What kind of questions can you frame, or what kind of information can you extract from the passage as well? That is a challenge to you guys as well. Done, guys? So that will be your homework as well. I'll update the assignment and I'll send it right now itself. I'll end the session. I'll process the recording. I'll add this recording today itself. I'll just process it. It will take around 20 minutes to process. So after that, I'll add it, upload this, and I will add the 2 RCs and send it right away at the end of this session. So we will carry forward. I'll add them as question number 6 and 7 only. So we will continue our discussion from question number 3 onwards tomorrow. Done? Chalo guys, over and out. It was great fun today. The fact that these were new passages, new questions that I made, that made them even more interesting to teach. So whenever I make new content, it makes my life a little more interesting as well, because then I'm not repeating what I've taught previously. It is something new, and that kind of makes me a little happier while teaching as well, doing new things. So that brings us to an end to the session today. I will see you guys tomorrow. We might start again at 9:30. There is some work which is going on at the office. So the carpenters actually leave at 9. So I'm just getting a couple of things repaired. So they leave at 9 and it takes me about 15 minutes to get back home. So I close the office and then come. So that's why we are starting at 9:30. And because if I can stay there till 9, right, work would probably be done in the next couple of days. It will finish. Otherwise, they will leave early and it will be extended that much. So we'll probably start at 9:30 again tomorrow. I will let you guys know in 9 or 9:30, right? No, Divyansh, I have not had a look at that again. I'll just ping me tomorrow morning. Okay, I'm kind of done for the day today. I'll just do this work and then log off. I'll have a look at it tomorrow morning. In case I don't, just remind me. Okay. LRDI course, Ketan, I read your message and I chose not to reply. I did not find the time to make it live. I have discussed it with sir. We've got the go ahead for it. We'll be publishing it. Probably tomorrow, maximum give me 1 more day. Tomorrow or day after, you will have 1 more class next week for LRDI. The class will be there. So don't worry about that. I have to write the course description, create the thumbnail and then publish it. So I'll just do that tomorrow or day after tomorrow, depending upon when I finish the mini section tests. Right after that, then I'll do this. Okay. You guys have to bear with me in one thing. Even though we've got a team now and our team is beginning to function, it is not that our team is functioning perfectly, or in fact, people are doing a good job, but I'm still the roadblock since everything goes through me right now. I'm still training people. We are functioning better than we did previously, but I think we can still do better. I as a person who's leading the organization can delegate work in a better manner. So I am also learning to do that. I've always worked kind of alone and I've always liked to do everything on my own. Beginning to realize that it's probably difficult to do that. I should focus more on my teaching and my bit rather than doing everything at the same time. So those changes are taking place over the next 6 months. You will see all those changes. You will experience all those positive changes, and but it will take a little bit of time. And hence, Ketan, matlab, publishing everything. I'm still teaching people to do these things, that they can do it on their own, and I don't have to do everything. So things get slowed down because most other things get done by me. So trying to move away from that slowly and steadily, and I think as we move away from that, we will probably get better with our service, with our delivery, with our way of doing things. Okay? Done, guys? Chalo, over and out for tonight. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night.